Hey, gun people, let's look at this shooting here. I've been reading and watching news and hearing the conspiracy things, and uh, different accounts say different things. Again, nobody really knows what we're being told is true or accurate. You got the FBI seizing, jumping in the investigation. He was a federal employee, possibly with the IRS. Somebody said CIA. Another source said he was a postal worker. So uh, I'm going to go over a couple of gun things, that some pictures that got out there that they're investigating, and just kind of go over different things that I've read in different news sources for some people that may just watch one source or may not be paying attention. And I'm just going to cover this shooter. So, and again, I don't know anything specific that nobody else doesn't know or that I haven't read or seen. So it's not like I've done my own investigation, but you can kind of read through the lines or kind of tell when people are heading in the same direction, or what passes a smell test and what doesn't. Some people are speculating that he sent his girlfriend away before the attack because he gave her a ticket 2 weeks before. So maybe she didn't know and couldn't interfere. Some people are saying he left a note. Oh, I got a picture of that. Let's see. He wired 100,000 to the Philippines. He was prescribed anti-drugs right before this, which these drugs supposedly cause violence. So we probably need more drug control. We need more pharmacy control. We need more money control because he spent a lot of money. Let's all talk about control instead of all jumping on, oh, it's the guns. One thing to get clear, and I know all my gun people here know this. No matter what law would be in place, it would not stop this. I know they want you to believe that if we had more control and more laws and less people had guns, none of this would ever happen and everybody would be safe and singing Kumbaya. Britain right now is trying to outlaw the possession of acid and sales they're trying to control. They want a waiting period on acid. They want limits. You got to show an ID card because the acid attacks are so high. And Britain has a huge knife attack problem. Most of their attacks are knives. Why? Because they don't have as many guns. They have cars killing people. Nobody's outlawing cars. They have people lighting things on gasoline. I just had a guy walk in a bank, tried to burn a bank down. Are you going to outlaw gasoline? I mean, it's just so ridiculous when government starts attacking guns for these problems, and all they want to do is make people go, oh yeah, look to us for safety. Look to us for the answers. If we had all the guns, you would be safe and everything would be fine. Man, that is such a dangerous path. I mean, I can't believe we fell for it as much as we have over the centuries in this country. Gun control's so out of control, and people are like, oh, it's the gun, it's the gun. Nah, you're a freaking idiot. All right, so I put a bunch of things from different articles and pictures on a Word document, and let's go to that. Okay, so I just kind of copied and pasted some things that I've read, and I'll kind of go through it and kind of give you my take or kind of what I'm reading between the lines. The police found total of 47 firearms in 2 houses in a hotel suite. Special Agent, San Francisco office, Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. Ooh, that sounds impressive. Almost all have been traced, and they were all bought in Nevada, Utah, California, and Texas. Now, they make it seem like this guy went to all these states and bought these guns. He's lived in all these states, and he's bought those guns when he lived in those states. These guns have been collected over 20 years or so. If you went back and look at all the guns that I've purchased, you would see that I purchased guns in Hawaii, in Ohio, in Texas, in California, in Utah, or not Utah, in Nevada. Where else? I don't know. I've purchased guns in a lot of places that I lived over the years. I mean, there's nothing, to me, this isn't real big, but it makes everybody go, oh, more gun control. Look at him. He's just driving around the states. That's a misrepresentation. I don't buy it. It's BS, but, you know, I think information is good, and you can make a better decision if you have the right information. Liberals want to ignore information and facts because they want to be dumb and just scream, more government. Government's the answer. If we only had more rules and regulations, then we would be safe. We've got to protect government because government protect us. So stupid. Miss Delaney's considered a suspect at first. Now she's a person of interest. In my book, she should lawyer up. I just saw that I Should. What the hell happened there? Why didn't spell check get that? I guess I'm in all caps. Anyway, I think she should lawyer up. She shouldn't be talking to anybody. No matter what she says, they're going to get her. If she lawyers up, it puts the burden of proof on government to prove that she was involved. Now, I know people are going to be like, well, she has nothing to hide. She should talk, blah, blah. You know what? I just don't think nothing's good going to come out of this. She's going to either say she knew he had guns, she saw him clean a gun, she was with him when she bought a gun, she didn't know why he sent him the money, and she didn't know why she sent him to the Philippines. Then I go, you know what? We think you're lying. If she lies in one statement, if she gives one misremembering what she said, and she gets one fact reversed or confused, they will charge her with lying and obstructing a federal investigation, and the FBI will screw her. She should lawyer up and not say a damn word without a lawyer. But that's my advice. Mr. Paddock worked for the federal government for roughly 10 years, from 75 to 85, spokesperson from the personnel management. Now, somewhere else it says he was with, let's see, investigators, multiple job applications. They had fingerprints on file. Anytime you work for the government, they take your fingerprints. I've got multiple fingerprints on file. As part of reflecting his postal service in the mid-70s, well, he went postal. He works for the post office, so he went postal. That's the thing. He went for the government. He worked for the government. Government did continuous backgrounds on him. He passed all guns. All gun laws were complied with when he bought his guns. He didn't violate one law buying all these guns. And people think, oh, if we had laws that prevented this, it would prevent what he did. He would be using cars, guns, knives, stolen guns. I mean, it's just ridiculous, but the way people are jumping on his gun control. But it always happens. And that's why I tell people, buy guns while you can. Buy a lot of guns while you can. It's only a matter of time. Okay, supposedly he set up cameras which intend to approach. He had 23 long guns and hundreds of rounds of ammunition in a hotel. If they're saying hundreds of rounds, that means he didn't have 1,000. They would love to say he had 1,000 or he had more than 1,000. Since they're saying hundreds, I'm thinking he had anywhere from 300 to 700. Is that a lot of ammo? I mean, me personally, I mean, a liberal thinks if you have 5 rounds, you've got too many. They only think you should have 1 bullet Barney Fife and you shouldn't have a gun. I mean, they would want us to go with bows and arrows. And as soon as somebody does a mass shooting with bow and arrows, you know, they'll be calling for arrow control and bow control. So, you know, if we put signs up there was no shooting, then he couldn't have shot. If we put signs now at concerts saying no shooting, then everyone will be safe, because that's how liberals think. Let's see. So he had 23 guns. I'm getting different things. He had 11 guns. He's getting 23 guns. He had a total of 47 guns. I didn't put my sources on where, but all these comments are just literal outtakes. I just copied and pasted them here from a news report. So they said he had a thorough planning, or, you know, it was apparent that he wanted to see. I mean, obviously he brought 23 guns there. Obviously he was planning. I mean, he had multiple guns there. 12 of the rifles in the Electric Suite on the Mandalay Resort were outfitted with a bump stock. A bump fire, I did a vehicle. I'll put a link in the description to it. I did it in the other video if you want to go watch it. I've got one. I fired it. It's not an automatic weapon. It's still controlled. Yeah, people say it's like a machine gun. I mean, I guess it is. Yeah, whatever. I mean, because somebody can fire a gun fast does not make them a danger. That's not the issue here. The issue is he's on meds. He bought all these legally. He's an evil guy. He wanted to do this. He broke the law. He broke several laws. He committed murder multiple times, and people somehow think because we have murder laws and he committed murder, we don't need more murder laws. But because he committed a gun crime with a gun, we need more gun laws. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, so according to one law enforcement official, of course, he spoke on the position of anonymity because investigators were looking into this. He planned earlier attack in Las Vegas before deciding. So the fact that somebody said this, and maybe it was a law enforcement official, you know, they always say I want to be anonymous because they'll get fired and they're not supposed to talk to the press. Okay, but sometimes they put that in there just to make it seem like it's credible. So was this a really guy investigating? I don't know. But the fact that if it was a guy and he's saying he had planned an earlier attack before deciding the concert, that kind of leads me to believe they found evidence that he was planning an attack, but the evidence didn't necessarily point that he was targeting the concert. Maybe he changed his plan. Maybe he was there for another reason. Maybe he had a beef with the hotel, slot machines. It was with his gambling. That's what this statement leads me to believe. Law enforcement didn't say that, but that's just me reading into it. And then Mr. Medic checked in Thursday, put "Do Not Disturb" sign on his door for the next 3 days, so no maids entered his rooms. And according to a hotel worker, obviously, who was not authorized to discuss the matter, so we'll never know who said it, whether they did say it or how they said it, are not allowed to enter a room with the sign unless they're with a security guard, and that rarely happens. So usually after several days, if they see a "Do Not Disturb" sign, they probably if the guy's paying his bill, they probably don't care. But if the bills stop or there's no contact, they're like, maybe a guy died in there. He put it out on the first day and he died. So after several days, if we don't go in there, we ought to take a security guard in there and make sure the guy's not dead. That's why that policy is there. Other people be like, oh, they're trying to keep people safe and check for guns. I don't think it has anything to do with guns. It's for liability in case somebody dies in a room. In my book, my opinion, of course, Senator, some dumbass, third-ranking Republican in the Senate floor, we ought to take a look at conversion kits that make guns more lethal. It's not the guns, you idiot. See, look, I'm all for gun control as long as the same gun control applies to government. If we can only own one gun, then government people should only own one gun. If we can't have automatic, then government shouldn't have automatic. If we can't have a 10-round magazine, then government shouldn't have a 10-round magazine. That's all I'm calling for. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I mean, I just don't get it. Why is it that people, foolish liberals, think that when government can control citizens and exempt themselves from the laws and only impose on that's a good thing? I just don't get it. It just boggles my mind. The police found a total of 47 firearms in 2 houses and in his hotel suite. So, obviously the guy, has a lot of guns. I got no problem with that. I like the fact that he has guns. I'm glad he's exercising Second Amendment. I'm sorry that he used them for this stupid act and he was an idiot, evil guy, because now he's giving other gun owners a bad name. But you know what? Just like they tell us when black people commit 50% of the crime, not all black people are that way. Just like they tell us when Muslims blow up people, not all Muslims are that way. Somehow, when somebody does a gun crime, all gun people are that way. All right, whatever. So, ATF had all these guns, and now they're saying somewhere, and I don't know if I put it in here, that because he bought the guns sporadically over years, they would have no triggers. They knew he had all the guns, and he bought all the guns legally, but because he didn't buy them in one day, they don't have a trigger. And they were implying that if they knew, they could have stopped this. Again, this is how we get government to have more control. This is how we get more rules and regulations. Government convinces people if we only had more ability to get into the lives of citizens, we could keep you safer. I call bullshit. It's absolutely wrong. California has the strictest gun laws, 10-day wait period. Can't buy this gun. Guns are outlawed there. Bump stops outlawed there. California, and you got gun crime out the yin-yang there. But nobody wants to tell you that. All right. Stephen stockpiled guns since 82. He bought 33 firearms in the last year. So 33 of his firearms in the last year. So he came into some money. He was an investment. Guns are a good investment. Whatever. The fact that he flipped out and he got on meds and he was on prescribed Zanzetti meds and nobody's going to go after the pharmaceuticals. Nobody's going to go after their test because the FDA approved it. And if the FDA approves it, the FBI can't investigate another federal agency because then we'll say that the federal government is wrong. And we can't do that because we keep telling people federal government is right, and if we just had more rules and controls, you would be safe. Special Agent Charge Bureau this morning, Wednesday, purchased 30 mostly rifles between October and September. 3 days before he opened fire on a crowd, the attack. Okay. So, again, they're implying here, if we only had more rules to limit the number of firearms, this could. Look, he can only fire one gun at a time. I don't care if he had 33 guns or 200 guns. He can only fire one gun at a time. The number of guns is not the issue. although they want to make it the issue so we can get more rules and regulations to stop people from buying guns. Little by little, they want to, and I'm going to get to a lot of pictures here, so I know I'm just talking on this, but here comes the pictures up pretty quick. Okay, let's see. Had rigged 12, she said he rigged 12 semi-automatic rifles with devices known that could fire like automatic. All right, big, all right, great. He could fire faster. He's still got to reload. He's still got magazines. He still had to load. It still doesn't address the evilness in his mind, which you cannot outlaw. It doesn't address the drugs he was on, whether he was under the influence. It doesn't address all the other ways he could kill people if he wanted to. I'm going to do a video on how to kill people without guns, but that'll be later. I'm sure YouTube will be all over that trying to censor it because we can't have people thinking that guns aren't the issue. All right, where's the note that he left? Somebody is saying this is a note. Right here, he left it on a table with the roll of duct tape right there, and it's a note. If there's a note, why haven't we seen it? Why haven't we heard about it? What's in the note? My guess is if there is a note and it fits into against the liberal left, I hate Trump, I hate country western, I hate whatever it is, if it points to the left, that's why we're not hearing about the note. To me, there is absolutely no reason that they cannot share with the people. Government's always like, oh, we need the people's help. Please send us your video. Please let us know if you've seen. We're looking for this. Help us. Help us. Government always wants your help. And then when they get an investigation, they treat citizens like shit and go, you're too stupid to know about the... It's an ongoing investigation. We can't talk about it. You're too stupid to handle the facts. Oh, man. Why haven't we seen this note? If there's not a note, why didn't they say there's not a note? None of the stinking media is asking, where's the note? Was there a note? Do you know? They're always shucking and driving about, well, we're still investigating. We're not sure. It's long term. So looking at these two guns on the ground, everybody's saying they had tripods. Look, people, this is called a bipod. Bi for two. It's got two. Everybody's saying he had tripods set up in his room. A tripod is a three-legged stand for a camera, usually. You can put a tripod on a gun, but it doesn't matter. These are just bipods that you fold up under. Big deal. They stabilize the gun. If you're shooting in a prone position, it keeps the barrel of the gun off the ground and it makes you shoot. Hunters use it. Military uses it. Police use it. Somehow, if a citizen has it, ooh, it's bad. We need bipod control. Okay. All right, so let's move down here to the next picture. All right, so this picture here they're showing, and of course they're investigating how these pictures got out. I guarantee you they're spending more time finding out who leaked these pictures than they are on the investigation of the killer, because they don't want people to know and be able to critically evaluate the crime scene and say, wait a minute, if this guy had all these guns, to me, there's only one picture with rounds on the ground. Where are all the shell casings? If he fired hundreds of rounds, the shell casings are in this room somewhere, everywhere. A gun ejects to the rear and to the side. They do not eject forward out the window. So this room should be covered in brass if we're hearing how many guns he fired. We still do not know how many people were actually shot with a bullet. All we keep hearing is deaths and how many people were injured. Nobody has said how many people were actually hit with a bullet. And people are, oh, it doesn't matter, it's his fault. I agree it's his fault. But it's just being open and fair with the information. How many bullets did he fire? They know. They have the casings. They have the empty magazines. How many bullets did he fire? And how many people were hit with the bullets? I mean, to me, that's a simple first thing that people should be looking at. Okay, so others are saying she was sent away not to interfere with his planning. He wired $100,000 to an account in the Philippines. And again, I took these excerpts from news reports. All I did was copy them. A week before the shooting, multiple law enforcement say not known whether money was meant for his girlfriend or family for other purposes, whether it was for gambling debt. The officials said he gambled at least $160,000 in the past several weeks in a Las Vegas casino. The guy had a lot of money. And so we need to outlaw money, because that's what caused this. If he didn't lose this money, he wouldn't have done this. If he didn't wire this money, he wouldn't have done. If he didn't have all this money, we should limit the amount of money that people have, because then they wouldn't be upset. I mean, if you just want to outlaw things, there's plenty of things to outlaw. Stop saying guns are the problem and you're the solution with more gun laws. Here's a picture of her coming in. She's in a wheelchair. She had a cop in front of her and behind her, and she's being escorted from the plane when she landed. So the cops met her at the plane. They know she's being detained. She is not free. When you have a cop in front of you and a cop in front of you, you're not free to go. Now, maybe they're saying we're giving you protection because people might want to hurt you, the victims, etc. If that's the case, that's fine. My guess is she's being escorted because she's being taken to law enforcement for an interview. And that's a bad sign. When government wants to force a talk with you, that's never a good sign. I know people, you should cooperate. If you have nothing to hide, government's your friend, they're there to help. You're an idiot. Okay? So one report said he was prescribed these anti-androgen 4 months before carrying out the shooting. Was it drugs' fault? Was it the FDA who approved the drug? Anybody investigating them? The FDA is being investigated by the FBI. Well, you know what? Of course not, because we can't say. Here's another picture of the note. However, in this picture right here, I noticed that he did have gloves on. Why did he have gloves on? Was he trying to hide his fingerprints? Did somebody put the conspiracy theories of why? He probably had gloves on, I don't know, because he was touching hot guns with barrels. You see a few rounds here on the ground. These look like shell casings. It's not exorbitant amount of shell casings. There's quite a few shell casings, it looks like, here and here. Why can't we find out how many bullets he fired and how many actual victims were shot? Rick, that doesn't make the headlines look like 500 people, 53 dead. How many people had a heart attack? I'm not saying the guy was right or wrong and he didn't cause it. I'm just saying be honest. Quit trying to make this out that he was an expert marksman. He fired 500 rounds and hit 500 people. That did not happen. I guarantee you most of the injuries are from fleeing, tripping, or ricochets. He did not hit as many people as they're saying. He just wasn't aiming. I mean, he's shooting it over probably 400 or 500 yards. But anyway, this is a standard stock. I don't see... This is a bipod. This looks like a 308, a little bit heavier barrel. Maybe an AK. They said he had an AK. These two guns are definitely... He's got a scope here. Was he shooting with a scope? I doubt it. This has a magazine in it. What, did he reload them all and he emptied them all? He had these guns sitting around in case he was going to make a stand. I doubt if he fired with a magazine. This looks like a larger magazine to me than a 5.56. So this looks like a 308. It even looks larger than an AK mag because it's very wide. So I would say this is probably a 308 magazine. But again, I don't have the guns. I don't have the information. I just thought it was interesting that there was glove and there was a few brass casings. Not millions of rounds. He had an arsenal. He had hundreds of rounds and 23 weapons. He can only fire one gun at a time, and there ain't that damn much ammo in here. But you would think the media would swear he was out there fighting off the shores of, some war. Okay, so bipod, not a tripod. I talked about this before. This is the hinges that they blew in the front door. Evidently, they said there was a camera. One of the cameras is behind a peephole. So he put a camera in here behind a peephole. I'm not sure why he did that. You would know when they're at the door. Or this is a bipod here. Again, this looks like... I don't know. That kind of looks a little bigger than an AR. Maybe it is an AR, a 5.56 223, but it looks to me like maybe the magazine well might be bigger. I could be wrong. Even if it is a 5.56, it's sitting on a bipod too, not tripod. Obviously, there's some things out here that they blew up. Let's see. So on this picture here, you got people unlawfully exiting the concert goer because here's a fence, so they didn't have a ticket, and they, I'm sure the highway patrol there in Nevada is going to be writing them tickets. But as these people are jumping over here, you notice these people are huddled up against a screen. This screen, they think in their mind, is giving them cover and concealment. It's actually maybe hiding them a little bit, but it's not protecting them. Remember, concealment just hides you. Cover actually gives you protection. They have no protection. They're trying to create distance. They're getting out of there. I get that. This lady's, I don't know if she's filming or taking a picture with her phone. But I just thought that was interesting that these people, this guy's leaning back. He's got his drink. He's like, hell, if I'm going to get shot, I might as well drink it. I'm with you, dude. But anyway, I would have been out of there. But they're using this little thin wall here, thinking they're protected behind the bullets when it's actually providing them no protection. But again, in a panic, you know, they're just doing what they're doing. In this video here, and for some reason it changed to the next picture here. Let's see here. So this is where the cops were at, and this is where the guy was shooting. This is probably a good, just looking at this, I'm thinking 300-400 yards, which is 3 or 4 football fields, maybe even longer. But when you're at high ground and you're shooting down, you have a tendency to shoot high and over what you're shooting at. When you're shooting up a hill, if these cops are shooting at him, if they aim right at this arrow, their bullets are going to be hitting here because they're going upward and the gravity's pulling them down, and the distance the bullet starts falling. So when you're shooting uphill, you always want to aim higher than where you want to hit. So shooting from here, I'm not sure the cops could have returned fire. They just had handguns. I don't know if their handguns would even make it that far. There's some handguns with some ammo that probably could have, but it would be very few. So shooting with a handgun at this distance isn't going to do much. But even if you're shooting at a rifle, if you aim here, your bullets are going to go through windows on the lower floors. You could hit somebody else. So returning fire was probably not an option. I'm thinking the cops did not return fire. I looked at pictures afterwards. There were no bullet holes in any of the other windows. So, you know, those are just things that I'm kind of like, okay, something to think of. A bump stock here on this picture right here, I believe this is a bump stock. And it's a bump stock because the stock is a solid metal piece down to this handle. And on my video, I show this up close. And basically, this handle moves back and forth when you squeeze it. However, this magazine looks funky to me. I think this is a 22. Maybe it's a newer, wider magazine that holds more 223. But I don't know if this back part, some of your 22s, looks like a 223 round, but the back part, the bullets are loaded in the front. I see there's one picture where he actually has a 22, and I think I have a picture of it. This picture right here, this mag I saw earlier, that is not a 5.56 mag. It's not a 22 mag. You see the brass here? Again, not a whole bunch of rounds. This is a bipod. He's got a scope. This is not a bump fire. This is a standard expandable stock on any rifle. I don't want to give the liberals their assault rifle. AR. Oh, it's an assault rifle. Yeah, okay. When the cops carry it and government carry it, it's not. Paddock had a total 47 guns, 23 in the room, 12 fully automatic fire. He put cameras in a peephole in his room, service card outside to see if SWAT, maybe. He was prescribed anti-anxiety drugs before the massacre, okay? So again, I'm taking those. Here's a picture of his passport. I don't know. It's got some information about him, date of birth, etc. Let's see here. FBI took all digital and electronic evidence. So when the FBI comes in and takes over a case, they're not sharing with the locals. So the locals don't want to necessarily share with the FBI. There's a jurisdictional thing. This should be a state and local issue. The FBI and the government gets their fingers involved because of federal gun laws and federal this and federal that. Shooter was an IRS agent for nearly a decade in the 70s, 80s. So he worked for the government again. And, of course, government wants more background checks so you'll be safe. If they just had more laws to protect you, you would be safe. All right, so I went long. Hopefully you got something out of that. A lot of information out there, still changing, still going up and down. I want to see the note. I want to know how many people were actually hit with a bullet fired, how many people were hit with ricochet bullets, how many bullets were fired, and where the hell the note? What do they know about the note? Those are my questions. All right, we'll end that there.